All right, students, I'm going to do a quick video to kind of practice some problems for your test tomorrow. So, are you going to be test ready tomorrow? I wasn't going to do a video, but I thought maybe some of you guys were asking for some extra help. I'm also going to look for some Khan Academy videos for simplifying. That's something I noticed that we're struggling with still. I also noticed that we're still struggling with finding equivalent fractions. I'm going to look for a video for that to add. And converting decimals to fractions and vice versa. So I'm looking for some videos on things like that to help you out and see if those are previous skills from elementary that maybe that could help you that you could watch. So let's do some examples that would help you for your test tomorrow. First off, we need to know what is an inequality. If they ask you this word, remember that is the greater than, less than symbol or equivalent symbol between comparing two numbers or two positive rational numbers. Also remember that a positive rational number is any number that's greater than 0. So any positive rational number is any number in any form, whether it's a decimal or a fraction or a percent, that's greater than 0. So remember that for tomorrow, and also remember about inequality. So if I'm comparing two things, for example, if I have 12/13 and I'm comparing that to 2 over 6, you can do a couple of things. You can do the benchmark fraction strategy where you look at the numbers and say, is it closer to 0, 1/2, or 1 whole? And 12 over 16 is closer to 1 whole because the numbers are very close together. 2, 6 is close to 0 because the numbers are very far apart. So I know 1 is greater than 0. That is one strategy you could do. Another strategy is you could do equivalent fractions, which in this case, I'd probably have to do 13 times 6 to get equivalent fractions. And that would give me 78, so I would make both these over 78. And I would say, how did 13 become 78 times 6? Do the same thing to the top, and I would get 72. How did 6 become 78 times 13? And 2 times 13 is 26. So yes, again, 72 over 78 is greater, which means 12 over 13 is greater. That is doing the equivalent strategy. Another strategy would be to do the cross multiplication. Sometimes they call it the butterfly, where you go diagonally across and you multiply. So I could go across and say 13 times 2 is 26. And 6 times 2 is 72. So 72 is larger than 26, so 12/13 is greater. So that's an example that you can do. Why don't you practice one on your own? Let's say if I did 1 over 5, and we're going to compare it to 8 over, let's go 8 over 14. So you do this. Pause the screen. You can do it, and then we'll check back and see if your answer is correct. So pause the screen. Okay, if you've unpaused it, then you've worked it out, and now we're going to check your answer. So if I do the benchmark, I know 1/5 is very far apart, so it's close to 0. 8 over 14 is very close to a half, so I know half is greater than 0. So 8/14 is larger. So that was good practice on that. The next type of problem that you might have is ordering fractions from least to greatest. Again, if you have more than one fraction, it might be a good idea to use another strategy other than like cross multiplication or equivalent fractions, because that would take a lot of work. You might want to use the benchmark fraction. So if I have, let's say, 11 over 20, I'm comparing it maybe to 7, 6, maybe 5, 6. Oh, sorry, 7/16, 5, 6, and maybe 3/8. So I might use the benchmark fraction, and I say, well, 11 over 20 is almost half. It's actually a little bit larger, so I'm going to put a plus arrow. 7 over 16 is almost half also, but it's actually a little bit less. So I'll do that down arrow. 5 over 6 is close to 1 whole, and 3 over 8 is close to half, but again, it's 1 below. So now if I'm doing least to greatest, I know that the greatest is 5 over 6. He is greater than the next number, which in this case, I'm thinking these two I'm not quite sure about. Actually, yeah, no, these two, because they're both below the 1/2. So maybe these two I might need to do the cross multiplication, but at least I only have to do it one time. So 16 times 3 is 48, and 8 times 7 is 56. So the 7/16 is larger because it had 56. And then the 3/8 would be the next largest. Oops, I'm sorry. I take that back. That wouldn't be next. The next largest needs to be the one that was higher than a half. So that would be 11/20. Now I need to put the 7/16 next. And then the 3/8. So that should cover all my fractions. At this point, if you want to do some cross multiplication just to double check your answers, you could. But that's how we compare more than two fractions. Let's say I have some problems where I don't have all fractions. I might have a mix of decimals and fractions. So let's say I have 1/8 and I have 3/5 and I have 5/10 and maybe I have 5 whole. Oops, I don't have any odd things. Let me change up. Let's say I have 0.05 and let's change out this 3/5 to 0.6. So now I have decimals and I have fractions. So to compare these, I need to make them the same. They need to either be the same form. They either need to be all fractions or all decimals. It's totally up to you. I like to change mine to fractions. So I would change the 0.6 to over 10 because 6 is in the tenths place. I would change the 0.05 to over 100 because the 5 is in the hundreds place. Now I'm able to compare them a little bit easier. But I do have this 100 here. I might need to change these fractions to over 100. So by doing that, I add a 0 to the top and the bottom because I'm multiplying them both by 10. Same thing here. And now I'm able to tell that 5/100 is less than 5/10 and 5/10 is less than 0.6. I know at this point the 0.6 is the largest. Next is going to be the 5/10 if I put it back in the original form. Now I'm not sure between the 1/8 and the 5/100 because they're both pretty far apart from each other. So let me do now some cross multiplication to compare these two. 8 times 5 is 40 and 100 times 1 is 100. So the 1/8 is largest and the smallest is 0.05. So let's review this problem. We need to make them all the same form. That's the first step. So change them all to decimals or all to fractions. Then you can make them, if you change them to fractions, the bottom numbers need to stay the same. So you can compare them. And if you can't make them the same, such as we had with the 1/8, then you can just compare maybe just two of them. And it makes it a little bit easier with the cross multiplication. Let's take a look at another type of problem, which would be multiplication of fractions. If I have a fraction such as 3/8 and 1/4, I don't have to really do anything with these fractions but multiply across. It makes it real easy. So I get 3 over 32. Can I simplify this fraction? No, because there's nothing that goes in a 3 and 32 that they share. It's called a common factor that you pull out to make it smaller. So these kind of fractions are really easy to multiply. Let's try another one, and you can pause the video and see if you did well on it. Let's compare 2/8, and let's do 2 let's not do 2. Let's change it up. Let's do 3/9. Let's compare these two. So pause the video, and you can work it out, and then unpause it and check and see if you did it right. Okay, at this point, hopefully you worked it out and you paused it. Let's see if you were correct and you had to multiply across. 2 times 3 is 6, and 8 times 9 is 72. Now, in this case, I can simplify 6 and 72, which 6, I can divide both of these by 6, and it would equal 1/12. So that would be my simplified answer. So let's now say that we have a problem that looks like this. Now, can I just multiply across like we did before? No, because I have a mixed number. You have to convert it to improper before you can multiply. It's the law of fraction multiplying. So I do the check mark. Some of you guys do different strategies, that's fine. So I do 2 times 4, which is 8, and then 8 plus 1 is 9. 9/4 times 8 times 2 is 16, plus 1 is 17, and you keep your bottom number. Now this looks just like what I had before, and you're going to multiply across. So I know I have 8 on the bottom, and 9 times 7 is 63. Regroup my 6. 9 times 1 is 9, plus 6 is 15. So 153/8. Change it to back to a mixed number. And I need to work this one out. 8 goes into 15 one time. You get 9 remaining. Bring down your 3. 8 goes into 93. Actually, that doesn't work. This should be 7. My bad. 73, excuse me. So 8 goes into 73 9 times. 72, 1 left over, so my answer would be 19 whole. 1 is my numerator now, and 8 is my bottom number. So that's how you work those out. The next thing you had to know was to divide with fractions. So if I had a problem such as 4/5 divided by 8/7, on this we have to do something called keep, change, and flip, or keep, change, reciprocal. And so we rewrite the fraction as 4/5 times or multiplied 7/8. And now it looks just like what we did before, and you just multiply across. Now, this is one of the times that you can multiply and then simplify afterwards, but I'm looking at my fractions, 4/5 and 7/8, and I see I have a 4 and an 8 that I could simplify. I can divide 4 into both of those. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. So that makes me have smaller numbers to multiply with. So 1 times 7 is 7, and 5 times 2 is 10. And as you can see, it is simplified. You can also have a mixed number that you have to divide with. That's no problem because you know what to do. You just change it to an improper. So I do the check mark. That's 9/4 because 2 times 4 is 8 plus 1 is 9 divided by 2/5. Now I just do the same as I did before. You do the keep, change, flip. So 9/4 times 5/2, which gives me 45/8. Now I can change it back to a mixed number by dividing the 8 into 45. I can do this one in my head. 8 goes into 45. Oops. 5 times, I get 40. Have 5 remaining, and 8 as my denominator. And there you go. So, if you can do all this tomorrow, you should do pretty good on your test. I think that is it. Oh, one more thing. You might have to know how to use a fraction line. And they give you a problem such as 2 divided by, let's say, 2/8. How would you work this out? Well, you would start at the 2. This is where you start. Your whole should be broken down into 8. So I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But you got to circle groups of 2/8. So that's 1/8, 2/8. circle it. You got one group. 1/8, 2/8, circle it. Two groups. 1/8, 2/8, circle it. 3/8, 1/8, or three groups. 2/8, circle it. You got four groups of 2/8. One group, 1/8, 2/8, circle it. Now I got five groups of 2/8. 1/8, 2/8. Now I got six groups of 2/8. 1/8, 2/8. I got seven groups of 2/8, and then 1/8, 2/8. I got 8 perfect groups of 2/8. So the answer would be 8. I think that's it. You should do well tomorrow if you watch this video, and good luck. Remember, this is your last test grade of the 9 weeks, and it's worth 40%. So remember, you want to check everything so you do not wreck yourself. All right? Good luck. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.